I want to start by saying that I actually enjoyed Volume 1. I was genuinely engaged and felt that the show stayed focused and tight. Volume 2, on the other hand, drained me. Every episode felt like it sucked energy out of me faster than sprinting to the toilet with explosive diarrhea. Not because it was boring, but because it was exhausting to keep up with what this show is trying to be now. The pacing and story logic make it feel more convoluted than thrilling. Stranger Things used to be about contained weirdness. One town and one mystery with rules that mattered. That was enough. The Upside Down scared us because we didn't fully understand it, but once the rules were set, the show respected them. The kids felt vulnerable. Danger felt real. Now the show piles on layer after layer. Vecna's personal realm, mind prisons like Camazotz, the abyss as some nightmare dimension beyond the Upside Down, psychic bridges, and whatever else they're calling it this week. It's no longer just an upside-down world, it's a multiverse of convenient planes.
You serious?
Every time danger hits, someone survives because a new rule or dimension allows it, or the story just needs them alive. Strange turns into convoluted, and the tension fades. Vecna shows this perfectly. His powers shift to whatever the scene needs. Someone falls after escaping his mind lair. He catches them midair across dimensions and yanks them back, even if they're already far gone and tumbling toward the Upside Down, making the reach feel illogical. Someone needs a temporary escape. He hesitates or gets distracted. When the villain is this omnipotent yet inconsistent, the stakes collapse, which eventually leads into emotional investment becoming drained.
But he's right.
This plot armor spreads to the Upside Down itself in ways that feel bizarre. Take Nancy and Jonathan. They're trapped in pulsating organic goop, slowly crushing them. They're seconds from death, spilling raw confessions. And then, right on cue, the stuff solidifies and freezes in place to save them. No explanation, just convenient hardening because the plot can't kill them yet. It's an unearned rescue that makes you roll your eyes. The world bends to protect favorites and turns peril predictable. The Holly and Max storyline in Vecna's Mindscape pushes this even further into bizarre territory. All of a sudden, little Holly turns into this intuitive detective. She spots that the broken cap on Henry's old spyglass matches the cave outline perfectly, turning it into a literal map that leads them across a desolate desert to Henry's suppressed childhood trauma.
What?
They stumble and fall right into a hidden mineshaft memory, watch young Henry brutally kill a man, and somehow that unlocks their escape portals. Max wakes up fine in the real world, but Holly's freedom lasts seconds before Vecna yanks her back. It's clever on paper, but it feels like another layer of convenience piled on. Holly going from curious kid to puzzle-solving hero overnight, with the mind rules twisting just enough to let them almost get away. This leads into one scene that completely broke my immersion. Mrs. Wheeler wakes up from near death after her Demogorgon fight, battered and barely able to move. Seconds later, she drags herself downstairs, spots a couple of oxygen tanks conveniently placed in her room, hauls the heavy thing into the hospital basement laundry room while injured and alone, rigs it into a dryer for a perfectly timed explosion that wipes out the Demodog stalking the kids and hides flawlessly without anyone noticing. All this from a woman who was comatose minutes ago.
What the fuck is this?
I don't know.
This isn't heroism. It's plot armor disguised as a mama bear moment, with logistics that strain belief just for an emotional payoff. The laundry scene also feels recycled. The enclosed basement space and predators stalking through vents and doors, with the mirror perfectly placed above the kids for tension. Characters frozen in hiding while danger circles, and music luring the beasts in. It's a near shot-for-shot homage to Jurassic Park's raptor kitchen chase with that clever girl tension. Stranger Things has always drawn inspiration from classics, but this feels more like copying homework than reimagining it. It's creatively disappointing and undermines the confidence the show once had in its own stories. I also want to spend more time on Will's arc because it deserves it, and honestly, it's one of the bigger letdowns in Volume 2. The idea of Will being gay and carrying feelings for Mike has been simmering since season 3, and it made sense given his history and how the show coded him early on. The problem isn't the destination, it's how long they sidelined him to get there and how clumsily they finally deliver it. For 2 seasons, Will has mostly been the sad kid in the background, sensing Vecna or crying about growing up, with barely any real agency. Then suddenly in Volume 2, the painting and his feelings become the emotional centerpiece, but it lands during the group's final prep talk, right when they're about to split up for the big plan. The timing feels bizarre. The world is ending, Vecna's at full power, and we're pausing for a heartfelt monologue that indirectly comes out to everyone. In 1980s in Indiana, this would carry real weight and risk, but here it's met with quiet support and no visible fallout, which feels more like modern wish fulfillment than the grounded reality the show used to sell us.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Beyond that, reducing Will's entire arc to his unrequited crush starts to feel limiting. He spent years defined by trauma from the Upside Down, and now almost every scene circles back to Mike not needing him anymore. It's valid pain, but it overshadows everything else about him. The coming out moment could have been powerful if it felt organic and earned over time, maybe quieter and more private, or tied better to the stakes instead of interrupting them. Instead, it feels rushed and spotlighted in a way that pulls focus from the action without fully paying off emotionally. I'm glad they're finally addressing it, but after waiting this long, it deserved more nuance and better integration into the story. On top of all this, the release strategy is frustrating. Splitting the season into Volume 1, Volume 2 on Christmas, and then making us wait another week for a single finale episode isn't about storytelling. It's corporate pacing to milk views. People want to finish a story, process it, discuss it, and move on. Dragging it out kills momentum and diminishes whatever impact the ending might have. In the end, Volume 2 didn't work for me. It's not bad on its own, and it has spectacle, but it no longer feels like the Stranger Things I remembered. It's overcomplicated and afraid of restraint. The tension is inconsistent, character logic bends too far, and familiar beats are recycled rather than innovated.
Damn!
By the time the credits rolled on episode 7, I wasn't angry. I was just tired. That's not how episodes leading into a final season's climax should leave you feeling. I wanted to love it and feel that old inventive focus, but instead it feels like the show's running on fumes, and I'm left waiting again for a payoff that might never quite land. And then we had to wait for episode 8. After the backlash Volume 2 got, I went into the finale pretty worried it would end in a disappointing way. In the end, I was emotionally satisfied in parts, but story-wise it really didn't do enough. Episode 8 clearly focuses on feelings, sacrifice, and giving characters their big final moments. That part works, and I won't deny some scenes hit hard. The acting is strong, and there is definite emotional weight. But once you sit with it for more than a minute, the lack of closure becomes obvious. This has always been my biggest issue with Stranger Things, and the finale never fixes it. Hawkins and the adults still make no sense. Kids disappear constantly. Monsters tear through the town. The military rolls in, and somehow parents barely react. No one seriously questions where their children have been for days. Karen Wheeler got a couple moments in Season 5, but it feels too little, too late. And what about Max's mother? Her daughter was in a coma for 2 years, and she just vanishes from the show entirely. That's unrealistic writing that never got addressed. Another long-standing problem is that the main characters survive absolutely everything. Over 5 seasons, they face battles, explosions, monsters, military assaults, and in the end, nobody important really dies. That can work sometimes, but here it feels safe and lazy. Killing off someone or seriously dealing with permanent loss would have required real consequences and follow-up, which the show clearly wanted to avoid.
It's true! It's true!
The time jump after the final confrontation also feels like an excuse to skip the aftermath. What happened right after Eleven's sacrifice? How did Hawkins recover? What did the military do? Was the truth ever exposed or covered up again? None of this gets touched. Jumping ahead just to show everyone moved on felt unsatisfying and like a cop-out. Henry's deeper backstory was solid, and Jamie Campbell Bower gave a genuinely emotional performance, but there simply wasn't enough time to let it breathe or land with full impact. Important questions stay unclear. Why didn't Joyce or others recognize him from school days? The first shadow play already complicated the timeline, and the finale doesn't resolve it. It just moves on and hopes you won't think too hard. Even Eleven's sacrifice feels forced for emotional reasons. She could have beaten the threat with her powers and found a way out. The other test subjects were already gone. Her death comes across as included purely to make the ending sadder and to signal, look, we're willing to kill characters, rather than because it truly made sense for the story. By the end, the show seems to say everyone got their emotional closure, so that's enough. For me, it isn't. The dialogue also got way too corny, with characters explaining feelings out loud multiple times. It felt aimed at a much younger audience than the earlier seasons. That said, the very final scene in the basement did work for me. Mike turning the ending into a D&D story about how Eleven survived felt like a believable way for him to cope with the loss. It gives the audience some emotional relief and leaves the door open that she might still be alive somewhere. Framing it through a D&D game brought the show full circle in a nice way. That part was handled well and left room for interpretation without feeling cheap. Overall, Season 5 was fine, and the finale had heart, but I expected more. Season 1 is still the best for me because it felt grounded, mature, and believable. This ending had emotional weight, but it left too many threads unresolved to feel truly satisfying. I wanted to love it completely, but in the end it feels like the show played it safe, ran on fumes in places, and settled for tears over real closure.